My name is Tyler Farnsworth, and I represent Built by Gamers, and we are a professional esports organization, meaning we sponsor professional teams competing in esports around the world. We also have a huge amount of content creators. This industry is large and it's growing. And I want to show you just a little bit about what that looks like and why BSV and the BSV blockchain is something that we're so excited about.
Competitive gaming. Let's talk about that. The year is 1972. A group of Stanford students participated in a space war tournament, marking the first competitive gaming event in history. Jump forward a few decades, the year is now 1994. Sony releases the PlayStation console, selling over 100 million units. Consoles are a hit. The 21st century has arrived, and millions of players compete against their friends in basements and living rooms worldwide. 2011, Twitch is founded, bringing competitive gaming to the masses. Now, everyone's watching. 2016, gaming goes viral, with millions of new players wanting to hop in on the latest trend. 2019, more than 100 million people tuned in for the League of Legends Grand Finals, surpassing the viewership of the 2020 Super Bowl. 2020, the gaming industry estimates $180 billion in generated revenue, making it larger than the film and sports industries combined. And just like that, we're here. Let's rewind a bit. The year is 2019, and Built by Gamers enters the esports arena, quickly assembling 3 elite teams across Valorant, Call of Duty, and Fortnite, winning multiple tournaments, amassing 5.6 million followers across all platforms, being nominated for Organization of the Year, being ranked the #1 Fortnite team in December 2020, dropping exclusive merchandise, and grossing 5.5 million views in January alone. So, now that we're all caught up, let's do this one more time. The year is 2021, and the question is, how much do we want to build next?
Okay. Hey, so I apologize if the viewing experience was suboptimal. I hope that you were able to capture some of the excitement and energy for this space, and hopefully even see a little bit of the opportunity that exists in this space. I come from the traditional advertising world, and I joined this company here earlier in this year. My background is in primarily Fortune 100 consumer packaged good, a lot of the style brands that you see up here on screen. I was the founder of one of the largest and fastest growing influencer marketing firms in the country. And I joined this company because I see the vision of the way and the speed at which the gaming industry is growing. The gaming industry is interesting as well because it's not just people who are professionals. What we see is that the average or the average gamer out there, the casual gamer, I should say, is responsible for a huge amount of spend in this space. So I came here to say, how might we lift it? How might we better connect with our communities? How might we better bring traditional advertising and traditional advertising attribution into this space? And I believe strongly that BSV helps us do that in a unique way. So what you see here on screen is different styles of content that we're putting out and different styles of integrations that we're doing. Now, advertising is only as good as you can measure it. So just having it up on screen doesn't mean that we're necessarily making an impact. We see that this industry is growing. It's growing like crazy. And sometimes these stats surprise folks. So the largest or the most concurrent viewers on an Instagram Live was 150,000 with Taylor Swift. That was then beat later last year by 300,000 live concurrent viewers on a live stream by Drake. Both of those live streams were absolutely dwarfed by the live stream by this gentleman, who is a gamer from Mexico, who many of you in this room probably have never heard of. There were over 2.4 million people watching the reveal of his Fortnite skin live. This is a digital asset that he was talking about, and over 2.4 million people were that excited about it to tune in and watch live. The scale here is enormous. And if you are in this room today, you get it. You get the understanding that the digital elements we can bring into our lives going further have a lot of opportunity to it. And so this is where, when we look at what Built by Gamers can do in this space, we've been very intrigued by the BSV blockchain and Bitcoin itself, and seeing the speed that it can do, the quantity of transactions that it can keep up with, the low fees that are associated with it. Frankly, there's nothing else from a technology standpoint we could find that would do what we needed it to do. We see a world where we are able to interact and engage with fans across the world at lightning speed, leveraging BSV technology. We see a world where, and there's a whole lot of stuff on the screen, I don't want to go through all of this, but that these trackable, secure microtransactions can be used to generate additional fandom, can be used to reward our fans, can be used for our fans to tip or reward players and content creators, can be used to wager or bet on the outcome of different games. There's an incredible amount of opportunity within the NFT space here as well. And I can't go into too much, but I can tell you that there's a lot we will be announcing at CoinGeek New York here in just a few weeks, that we've been able to partner with some exciting companies here in this space. And what I love is that this isn't just theoretical. So much in the blockchain world is talking about what could happen. This stuff is happening today. We have put relationships in place today that will allow us to make this stuff happen, and it's working in a big way. We see that we have an opportunity to where we bring audience. There's great technologies that have been talked about today that more people need to know about. That video you saw, we had an audience of 5.6 million. We are now over 10 million individuals in our audience that we are excited to introduce certain elements here in the BSV community too. And I can't go into all of that right now, but we have this opportunity to onboard and faucet out all of these ideas and concepts to this community, to expand our reach, to help lift all the boats here in the BSV community. I see an opportunity for us to leverage the social networks that we are on to be able to boost this out in a huge way, not just within our esports organization, but like-minded organizations around us as well. We see that this is an incredible revenue play. Previously, esports organizations were completely dependent on advertising. While that is still a major part of our revenue, we see that these fan purchases and donations that can occur on the BSV blockchain, wagers that can occur, original games that we create and introduce and partner with unique people, potentially people that are in front of you now, we'll see, NFTs and all the incredible things that can occur there. We see so much opportunity that is frankly only accessible here on the BSV blockchain. This slide illustrates that a little bit, or we see an opportunity using this technology to reward fans with Duro or functions of BSV, to reward them with exclusive NFTs that give them access to events, that give them access to play against our professional players. The world we see is the opportunity is limitless here. And I'm going to wrap here in just a second. I also see, as an advertising guy myself, I see the opportunity to revolutionize the attribution chain in the world of advertising. So let's say a major national pizza chain comes on board as a sponsor. I can work with my legion of players and content creators to get that sponsorship out to their fans. And what I mean by that is they can be awarded with an NFT that, if appropriate and if accepted at the point of sale or the digital point of sale for that pizza place, they can see the actual conversions of what occurred from that partnership. We see an opportunity to have exclusive NFTs that are unique, that have more than just a BOGO, but also an unlimited pizza supply for the next year. There's so many fun, cool things we can do. And what we see is that our fan base will reward us with additional data that they can give, with partnerships, with love, with revenue, with time, with conversions, with loyalty, that they will spend time within the Built by Gamers community, because we have made it such an easy place, such a seamless place for them to do this. Otherwise, they're paying $70 gas fees every time they want to send a tip to one of their favorite players. That's not acceptable. We love what's going on in the BSV space. I wish I had more time with you today. I hope to see you here in a few weeks in New York. If you get out your phone and scan this, my contact card will come up. we are in a place where we're looking for additional partners. If you think what I've talked about today has value to you in some way, please reach out. Would love to chat with you. I hope you have a great rest of your day and that I provided some value to you. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you so much. And you're going to hang out in the Zoom because we're going to come back and take some audience questions after the next couple of speakers. All right, next we're going to move to one of the games that's really taken the BSV world by storm recently. A lot of those transactions that are happening on chain are courtesy of this man and his team. Please welcome to our digital screen the CEO and co-founder of a company called Fyx Gaming, FYX, that is behind CryptoFights. Welcome, Adam Kling. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Jimmy. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Kling, CEO and founder of Fyx Gaming. And like Jimmy said, there is a game called CryptoFights that I'm going to talk about in just a second. But some quick background that actually is pretty interesting is CryptoFights actually used to be on Ethereum. And when we started on Ethereum back in 2018, we were really trying to pioneer kind of how client-server technology can work with the blockchain and not just, waiting, 10, 20 seconds for a transaction to confirm through MetaMask, really innovating it to be mass market potential. And I actually started looking at Bitcoin back in 2013 when it was hitting the headlines with the $1 billion market cap. And really just kind of following it, not knowing really what to do with it, because back then it was about, we needed to form exchanges and build the infrastructure to actually get into Bitcoin. And kind of fast forward to late 2017, Ethereum really caught my eye because it helped me understand the concept of decentralized applications, so we can actually develop things on it. And as we started building CryptoFights, we actually learned about BSV, and it solved a lot of our problems that Ethereum was starting to pose way back then. That actually now, in retrospect, it's Ethereum's not scaling, the gas fees are really high, and we would have been crippled and forced to go over to side chains and private blockchains like many other projects. So what is this thing called CryptoFight? So it's basically, it's an actual game on a game engine. We run on Unity. We have it for Windows and Android, and hopefully soon we'll release to iOS and Mac. And it's a 1-versus-1 strategy fighting game that is based on the Dungeons and Dragons dice mechanics. So if you've ever played the board game, you'll definitely feel really at home with this. And you actually, this is totally free to play. You don't actually have to have BSV to start playing this and experiencing games on the blockchain. You create a fighter and you can customize it completely down to the cosmetics, to whether you want it to have more strength or more intelligence. Do you want it to be a dwarf or an elf? And all of those decisions kind of affect how your fighter works in battle. And that also goes for the items. So all of the weapons and the armor that you either equip or get from loot drops in the game. And actually all of those, as just a note, are NFTs. These NFTs are super cheap to do. We don't have to worry about gas fees. We've done actually over 2 million NFT drops in the last 3 months with this game. And you can actually go and actually profit by playing this. You can go into a what we call the battle portal and do PvP. You pay an entry fee, as you can see on this graphic up here, and you get a reward. And you also have a certain chance of getting special items if you win. And so this next slide is actually showing what we used to look like when we were on Ethereum on a shoestring budget. As a beginning startup, we had to use a lot of stock assets and trying to figure out how to make things work with Ethereum. We had many different kind of iterations that we've gone through since we started it. With Ethereum, we actually started where you kind of configured your fighter and it would just kind of automatically play out on the blockchain and you would see the result. There's actually still some projects today that operate that way. Today, this is what it looks like. We've come a long, long way. We've definitely upped the graphics on it to make it, I think, more standard to other games today. But it's also real time. You actually can go in there. It is a turn-based game, but you can actually select actions that render out and play and affect the battle in real time. So as we started creating this game, we started to think, well, we're building this game and we're creating all this new infrastructure. We're understanding kind of this new way to develop games outside of Ethereum, right? And we found that, you know, when all of these games that are played on CryptoFights, you are essentially logging into a Bitcoin wallet. And so that's really interesting to think about now, is that when you actually log in, your username and password, and you have a Bitcoin wallet at your disposal, that is now your joystick. And when you actually make a decision or click a skill, you are doing essentially a microtransaction on BSV. And we started thinking, there's a lot of block explorers that people look at for financial transactions, but now we have essentially gameplay on the blockchain, and we needed to create kind of a new block explorer for games. And so we started to think of the Fix platform to be kind of the extension of CryptoFights. And it, long story short, it became the Fix gaming platform. So other games can actually start to use these features. And so I'm going to start going through some of these features and talk to you about the future. So as you can see here, if you actually did go on to what's on chain, you could see one of our transactions, and you would see a bunch of letters and numbers, and it really wouldn't make a lot of sense to a gamer. And on the bottom is actually a screenshot. And so we have a long way to go in actually polishing this up cosmetically, but on the left is actually the combat log. So we actually read that data and put it into kind of a human readable format. And then that blank video there, we actually have a render pipeline. So I'm actually going to get to that in the next slide, but that's a really important thing. What's cool is that the fighter, or even pretty much anything that happened in that battle, is you can drill down into. We have essentially a complete graph of everything that ever happened. Everything is connected to something else. So we have a block explorer for games now. Now, this data explorer is essentially kind of showing, each battle as it happens, what's the cash prize. And as we start to layer on more and more data, you'll start to get more statistics, like, for example, this username there, played this match, you click into that, then you click into that username and you see, this guy is, in the top leaderboard, he's played 1,000 games, his kill death ratio, and on and on and on and on. And we have that essentially immediately stored on the blockchain. So we formed this data explorer to really start to see, to give really the transparency in the gamer, to really just look around at everything. Nothing's being hidden. There's not really an API, so to speak. It's really just reading it off the blockchain. And so I mentioned the leaderboard. So we actually do have a leaderboard that we're just starting to play around with, where we can actually calculate how much people are winning, how much they're playing. And we're going to eventually start doing tournaments based on this, where you can just play and you can win prizes just by getting to the top of the leaderboard. As we get more sophisticated, though, we plan on doing things like single elimination tournaments, where you can actually compete on kind of a bigger scale with bigger prizes, and just in a more complex structure. And there's many different kinds of that, but as we get going, we're going to start seeing that, and that will also be actually in the game itself. Now, going back to that replay. So I think everybody's probably seen Twitch, or heard of Twitch, where you can watch people play games. One of the very unique things that we can do compared to Twitch is that instead of really having someone or the game player record the video and basically stream it up to a cloud data server, and then that streams everybody watching it, and that's essentially it's just a VCR, we're actually recording the data of what happens in the game, right? And so when you make a move and then I make a move and all that, those actually start to form on the blockchain, and we can render that back through the game engine at any point in time and actually recreate that video. So I call it a permanent time capsule of all gameplay. And so if you could think of 100 million players playing a game, and you have every single thing they've done in that game with the ability to render that back out on demand, I say move over Twitch, because we now have really the entire esports universe in data at that point at our disposal. And this also could create ways for people to create new content. So a lot of people like to train and comment on gameplay, and you could actually just render that on command. And we actually do have a render pipeline that does that. Another big important part of this, though, is the wallet. We recently actually pivoted from looking more at kind of the fiat side to more of the crypto side. And actually thinking, the future is really where everyone has crypto in some capacity. And having a wallet that will be able to convert any crypto that you want to bring into BSV, so you can kind of use that within CryptoFights or any other game on the platform, and profit and be able to pull it back out in either a cryptocurrency, or I think in the future you can probably push it to cash, like to your bank account. So we're actually just yesterday released a buy BSV with credit card or debit card functionality in the portal. And we also have the ability to, like I said, exchange a crypto for another. And there's going to be many more options, I believe, coming in the future for that, to where we can essentially be global and not have to really worry about the banking system anymore. And this kind of goes more into the profile, is that now that we have so much data, is that, your profile on the platform can be super, super rich with just really cool insights. How well are you doing against other people? What's your best item? Really depending on the game, we can aggregate or compute stats, unlike I think anything that ever exists now, because we're not really cross-referencing APIs anymore. We're actually just have this big data at our disposal. And it's not just us that has this, it would be essentially the world. Our marketplace actually looks a lot better than this now, but we do have an NFT marketplace right now for all the CryptoFights items. And in those, you're able to actually melt them, or in other words, destroy them for cash, or you can transfer to someone else essentially for, less than a cent instantly, and you can sell it for a price that you want. And we actually are going to have a create an NFT function, hopefully pretty soon, where you can essentially create a collection, and then you can put NFTs under that with the ability to store files in that NFT. I'm running low on time, so I'm just going to kind of jump to the end here. Is that the future of this platform is really awesome, not only on the NFT side, but what we can do with the matches and streaming them, the cash tournaments, and even new modes with CryptoFights to kind of expand the way that this game is played. And then the hopefully next year, we'll be able to start bringing on new games into the platform to utilize a lot of the technology that we pioneered with building CryptoFights. And just a quick thought about the metaverse. People probably have heard about the metaverse a lot. And I really believe since discovering BSV that it really unlocked a actual method to create a protocol for games to communicate with each other, and even create an economic system where it's essentially like a permissionless or open source system for games to talk to one another. As an example, CryptoFights NFT that has the 3D model, the textures, and maybe even just metadata can be stored on chain with essentially a consensus layer of that. If you want to use this in your game, you have to pay a half of a cent per use, for example, and you can create license agreements and royalty shares. And I think that's going to be the foundations of the metaverse going forward. And I hope to get there. If you need to reach me, adam@fixgaming.com. And if you would like to play the game, fix.gg/CFS. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Adam. So, as you heard, it's all about data, right? Using the blockchain for data to power esports and games. And you've heard a lot about these gas fees on Ethereum being high, $10 to $60. That's why you can't effectively do NFTs at high volume for these games. You're not going to mint a Battle Axe NFT that only might sell for $20 if it costs $20 to $40 just to mint it on Ethereum. We're going to go to our final speaker of this session, who's going to take us into the world of casino gaming technology. Who here likes a good casino? Okay, so it's this whole side of the room. He is the CEO of a company called BitBoss. It is in the gaming technology space in various sectors, but is building some great things on the BSV blockchain, coming to us from his home, I believe, in Colorado. Please welcome to our virtual screen, Matt Dixon, CEO of BitBoss.
Hello, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be with you in person today. Jimmy, I'll try to keep this brief to get us back on schedule. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, so my name is Matt Dixon, CEO and co-founder of BitBoss Corporation, real money gaming company out of Denver, Colorado. So we announced this last week, but I'll re-announce it, I guess, today. We received approval from our banking partner last week we will be tokenizing US dollars on the BSV blockchain. So we're very, very proud that we finally get that through. What that means is we have a true stable coin on the BSV chain now. It's actually FDIC insured. So mechanically, the way it works behind the scenes, the bank has given us a pooled bank account. Anybody can ACH or transfer money into that account. And as soon as the money hits the account, the bank's APIs notify us and we issue a token on BSV that represents those deposits. For us, this was a very important step in our evolution of our gaming platform, and I'll explain that next. So we have two main segments. We have a land-based segment and online segment. I'll speak mainly about the land-based segment today. Our products help with cashless wagering, seamless online integration. We actually have a money transmitter application that's very similar to Venmo or PayPal. And then we also help with mobile adoption. So let's start with cashless wagering. Cashless wagering basically allows people to transfer credits directly from their crypto wallet onto slot machines, blackjack tables, baccarat tables, and the cages at casinos. It's usually mostly been prohibited in the past, but with COVID, people started to push harder for it, thinking it was a healthier alternative. Casinos didn't want people to have direct access to their money at a slot machine in the past, but that seems to be okay these days. So what do we have? We have a hardware device. The hardware device speaks the protocol of all slot machines in the United States. We proxy through the protocol 99% of the time, but then when people want to add or subtract credits from the machine, they can use our new stable token running on BSV. We also have seamless online integration. This is a topic that I don't think people fully understand in gaming yet. Right now, if you were to make a deposit at FanDuel or DraftKings or into a cashless system at a casino, your credits are all kept on a back-end database. It's very difficult to integrate those credits between online properties, other land-based properties, different states, things like that. When you start to use a crypto wallet to store those credits or to display those credits to people, and all the player has to do is reinstall their crypto wallet into the website or the application that runs inside a casino, people's money starts to follow them around seamlessly. So you could literally make a deposit at a land-based casino in Colorado. You could then head off to Arizona. You could log into a sports book in Arizona. With our system, as soon as you put your phone number in, we realize that you already have a crypto wallet. We reinstall the wallet on the fly for you. And all of a sudden, your FDIC insured bank deposits are available for you to wager with. Literally no integration between the properties in Colorado and Arizona. It's going to be something that people start to realize in the near future. The other thing, like I've mentioned before, we have the ability to pass these credits from player to player. Since we deal with regulated casinos, we have very strict KYC and AML procedures and practices. But what it does allow us to do is we allow the patrons to use their money like they're used to. The younger generation, they barely know what cash is. They all want to share checks with each other. They want to send money using Venmo and Zelle. And our stable token allows us to facilitate that. So now casinos can start to compete with the Venmos and the Zelles of the world instead of being worried that they're going to take over their business. So, and then finally, obviously, when you allow people to carry their money around on their phone and you allow them to seamlessly transfer that money onto slots and tables and things like that, all of a sudden casinos have an application that's useful. Obviously, you can start to track people's location, what else they're doing with their phone. Are they walking out of your casino and into somebody else's casino? There's a ton of data that you can start to gather. And that's what happens when you use BSV to create real utility for real businesses in this world. And then finally, I'll just briefly talk about our online gaming platform. It's a full-fledged online platform. We've integrated with three separate content creators so far. We have over 100 slot machines and table games on our platform, 100% BSV based. There's some huge advantages to using BSV for online gaming. There's something called the chained unconfirmed transaction limit on BSV. What that allows us to do is process gaming transactions in real time without having to worry about when blocks are mined. So BSV is the only blockchain you can actually do that on right now. So it's literally the only blockchain in the world that you can actually process gaming transactions on and not worry about when blocks are mined. The other big part of online casinos is affiliates. Affiliates are the people that bring you customers. They're entitled usually to 25 to 40% of your revenue. Using BSV, we can pay those affiliates in real time based on the theoretical net win of a game. So if somebody wagers $100 on a hand of Baccarat, which isn't uncommon, the house advantage is typically about $1. If the affiliate's entitled to 40 cents of that, we pay it in real time as the bet's made. There's also something called provably fair gaming. That just allows us to prove to the gamblers that the results of the RNG were fair and that they did not get cheated out of their money. The other big thing that we're finding is that the content creators, their margins are being beat up every day. They used to get somewhere between 10 and 15% in Europe for their content. In Asia now, content is typically being paid 3 to 5%. They're realizing that the online operators are just accumulating as much content as possible and cutting their margins. So they've actually decided in some cases to become the operator. So they've gone from just making the slot machine to actually being the house. Through our platform, we can crypto enable them. We have our own wallet. We tie their wallet to their remote game server, which is their back end. All bets are processed on chain. And at the end of the day, it's a very efficient way to allow people to fund their gambling and actually to process their bets. So that's all I have today. I'll just try to keep it quick here and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Great, thank you, Matt. We're going to bring all the remote speakers back on screen when I come back up. And you heard from Matt a lot of this talk about real-time payments, because with the ability to do micropayments, because the median average transaction fee on BSV is so low, 1/50th, 100th of a cent, you can pay people 10 cents, 20 cents immediately from when they earn it, as opposed to today's business world where it has to be collected, accounted for, and you pay them, once a month, once a quarter, and then you have questions about whether or not they actually got paid the right amount of money. So we're going to take a few moments for questions from our one live speaker and our three wonderful digital avatars. Anyone have questions about this game and esports world, which I think is fascinating, will be driving, I expect, a lot of growth and activity in the BSV world? Any questions? Yes, Chris.
Well, for Adam, I wanted to expand on that idea of Twitch.
Okay.
And the fact that the games are stored,
yeah.
how that could disrupt.
Sure. So, Adam, you have a question from the president of TAL, big BSV miner, Krishna Prava, who wants you to expand on that concept of your storing of game data and being able to re-render actual games as a replacement for Twitch.
Yeah, so one of the prerequisites, I would say, is the game needs to be deterministic. So in other words, if you do something in a game, the outcome or the result of that isn't going to change every time you do it. So with our game, it is, especially because we do have random numbers in there as well. So when a person does their move and they do that transaction, It's recorded. It's, you know, obviously on BSV, and the other person does that, and we now have kind of the ledger of everything that ever happened. We just read that back through the game client, just as if you were playing it live. And so, depending on, you know, the legacy games, you know, like how they traditionally are created and how we can port those over into kind of this new future versus like the crypto fights where we built it, you know, really custom to kind of think about it that way, even beyond that's oversimplistic, just, you know, moves being on the chain. We have items on chain, we have game mechanics on chain and whatnot. But it really is that simple, is that if you put, you know, basically your input or your player's moves as a transaction, you know, you can read that back from the blockchain, and, you know, the game engine or however you have created your game can say, okay, you know, this is what happened. And there's games like Dota 2 that can have like a spectator version of that view, so you can see kind of all the players on the map. And as Tyler's probably very familiar, I used to play that, and you can save the file and it would render back, but in that spectator mode, you can kind of see all the things that are happening on the screen. And I think that's pretty cool to have that on the blockchain forever. And, you know, it's kind of immortal at that point.
Without having to store it as an entire video file, right? It's not like you
that is, yeah, not only that, Jimmy, is that obviously you don't have, you know, the video file and, you know, storage costs, and maybe you don't want to store that on like an S3 bucket or whatever storage medium you have, but the data, I mean, it kind of exists on the blockchain. So 20 years from now, you know, that game that you played, we can just kind of, you know, say, okay, you know, what happened back then? And it's on the blockchain. So we don't
show your kids, look what daddy did 20 years ago.
Exactly. And then I could say, hey, this was me 20 years ago playing, and create a Twitch video. Right. So.
Any other questions? Yes, Jet.
Matt, you mentioned the kind of, there was a limit on original Bitcoin where you had a certain number of streaming transactions chained together, and that limit was kind of opened up to unbounded basically recently, I think. But
not quite, but
your
big.
company seems to have a very high interest in that. Could you explain a little bit more detail about how you do that and,
Sure.
and how it helps your business?
So Matt, I'll repeat the question. You're being asked to explain a little bit more about the impact of what is the unconfirmed transaction limit, the ancestor limit that exists in Bitcoin, and how its bigger size on BSV, it's not completely unbounded, impacts your company. For the audience, really quickly, what they're talking about is there was a technical rule in the Bitcoin client software code that had been kept to a firm restriction in Bitcoin Core and BTC, which says there's a limit on the number of transactions that are linked together that can be done before they are confirmed to the next block, right? And then if you get, and I think it was 25. So if you're doing transactions, if they're linked together, you can't have a chain of more than 25 of them. You have to wait until they get into a block. And because blocks are on average 10 minutes, it might be 10 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be 2 minutes. How did that old limit of 25, which now I think on BSV is 1,000, eventually there will be no limit. Matt, how does that affect a casino gaming product?
Yes, sure. So our concern is that a player will try to double spend us, right? And we take the out in Bitcoin terminology, we take the customer or the player's outputs and we use them as the inputs when we pay them back. And what happens is if they double spend us, our transaction that pays them back will fail automatically. When the limit was 25, we could only allow somebody to make 12 wagers per block before we had to go start finding some different. We had some technology in our wallet that did splitting of transactions so that we could actually do more than 25 transactions at the time. But now that the limit is 1,000, it's 2 transactions per wager. So we can actually allow 500 wagers per block right now. And through some splitting technology in the wallet, we can double or triple that as well. So there are no chains in the world except for BSV that we can do this on right now. and allow.
I'm sorry, I would say that's especially important for casino gaming because there's some games where people want to keep playing, right? Fast, 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 which they
Yeah,
want.
and if you look at all these other smart contract chains, they went away from proof of work to proof of stake so that they could speed things up. But even a 15-second transaction on Ethereum is too slow for a gambler. People want to just hit the button, and they want to keep hitting the button. And you need to allow people to play. If you're going to have a blockchain-based platform, it has to perform the same way that every other platform in the world performs right now. And you can't just say, well, it's on blockchain, so you can't do what you want to do. And it's very, very important, and it's a huge advantage to BSV for us.
Okay, any last questions for Tyler from Built by Gamers? I'm very excited. So Tyler, you told us about how big your community is, and you've got a huge social media following. Tell us about that and how you're going to help us bring some of those people into the BSV world.
Yeah, it's exciting. This community is one that's very open. They're early adopters in this kind of technology. So many of them are already interested in the NFT space. They have crypto wallets as appropriate. They want utility, and they're open to adopting something that is going to bring them value in that way. We have our own social followers that are very large, but then we are continually bringing on new content creator partners, Twitch streamers, YouTube creators, TikTok creators that bring all of their audience into our ecosystem that we will be activating against to onboard into the BSV ecosystem.
Well, we look forward to that. Okay, one last question from the audience before we wrap up.
There's games on other chains. I was wondering if some of the speakers, some of the panel could maybe speak about some of the other chains that they believe that are doing the gaming platforms for NFTs and residual income out of it.
Okay, the question is, there are games on other blockchains. Can you comment about any of these other games and other chains and how they are relative to like use of NFTs or payment of, residual type income, like affiliate income? Any commentary about other games?
I follow a couple of them, and because we started, for example, the same year as Axie Infinity did, and they did okay. They kind of went sideways and really until this year, and then they hit a lot of the problems and anyways, long story short, they're all going to side chains. They're, like for example, the Engine ecosystem had to create JumpNet. We have Axie, went to Ronin. We have, NBA Top Shot with the Dapper Labs created the Flow blockchain. And you got to understand, like, this is, to me, I don't know the answer to the question, but it's very, very interesting because I can remember the thinking back then. And it didn't work, right? We were one of the projects that left Ethereum, and we had so much toxic heat against that decision. We made like a 20-page reasoning on our blog just to explain it, and just all the people like just hated it. And then now look at them, right? Is that most of their games and their projects are going to these other solutions because it didn't work. And I kind of fear that a lot of these projects are going to get into kind of the big boy shoes that BSV is trying to fill with security and actually having a full public layer one solution for just their game. I mean, Axie's huge, right? They're doing almost or close to $1 billion in NFT sales, I think on Ethereum, but they also use Ronin. And I just wonder like where all this is going to go, because they're trying to reinvent the wheel. And this is, again, goes to the decision why we went to BSV, because that's a whole other part of your business that is going to be on your shoulders. Is just figuring out your network and security and just how is this thing going to scale and how do I move users away from Ethereum over to my stuff, and we didn't want any part of that. And so we left. So that's kind of my 2 cents, kind of being in this spot where I am now. Another thing on NFTs is we have such a competitive advantage. We don't have gas fees to worry about. It's instant, it's free. Like we can actually subsidize. I mean, in our game, we give NFTs out for free. People can trade essentially for free. You can sign up to our portal for free and it's a wallet. I mean, none of this MetaMask and, download a wallet or any of that stuff. We can do it all in the browser.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I think a lot of these layer 2 solutions, you always have to get back on the layer 1 at some point, and you just can't process like slot machine transactions on something like that, because you always have to tie back at some point, and it's always going to cost you too much to tie back.
And I sorry, one more comment on that, because this is a huge deal that's going to hit them in the face sometime in the future. Is that one of my thoughts is that they're all going to layer 2 and they're going to probably get stuck there, and because they're not going to be able to migrate back, just like to Matt's point. And so what do they do then? And I just, everyone think about that. There's a lot of games coming out in the pipeline. A lot of them are okay and a lot of them are great, but they don't want to look at BSV for some reason, and we have a competitive advantage for that.
On that note, we'll wrap up this very fascinating session. Thank you so much for all your contributions.